She is a champion of women in manufacturing. She is passionate about advancing technology and inspiring the next generation. She is the one and only Megan Zimba, and she's ready to host the Creators Lounge.
The Creators Lounge is proud to welcome Google Cloud.
Hey everyone, I'm Megan Zimba, and we are at IMTS 2024. It's Friday. I can't mention the date. I was already told not to do that. But I am sitting here with Derrick, Nadonga, and David Spangler from Google Cloud. Hi, gentlemen. How are you?
We're doing well.
So nice to be here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for joining us. So we only have 15 minutes. So I really want to start the questions off so we can get as much information as possible. So can you start out with your background information, what your role is, and what your experience is?
Sure. So Derrick Nadonga, as I've mentioned. So I'm a lifelong Chicagoan. I've never really lived outside of the city before. Okay. I am a customer engineer at Google. So what that basically means is I am here to help customers walk through the journey to get to Google Workspace from wherever it is that they are. Okay. Primarily in a pre-sales capacity, but also in post-sales as well.
Okay. How about you?
Yes, so I'm David Spangler. I've been at Google for 4 years. I'm a customer engineering manager. And like Derrick, I was on the partner side previous to being at Google. But I've been in the Google Workspace world since 2011, January 1st. So been around for a while in the world here.
Okay, so Google Workspace, can we break that down? What is it and how is it entering in the world of industrial manufacturing? Because as a tech writer, I use Google all the time to save my docs, my spreadsheets, to brainstorm. Never thought it would be in industrial manufacturing. So can you break that down for us?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So if you're not aware, Google Workspace is the productivity and communication suite. So Gmail, Google Docs, as you mentioned, Google Drive, Sheets, all that fun stuff. So we've seen quite a bit of an adoption pattern of Google Workspace across like the last decade or so. Manufacturing, we've got a number of different manufacturing companies here. We are seeing that it makes sense from like a scalability perspective to have Workspace in on the manufacturing side. So one of the things that we see too is that like incoming workers are very familiar with Google Workspace already. Many universities use Google Workspace, as you might know. And so when you're hiring for someone straight out of college, chances are they probably are very familiar with it. So we see a lot of that just natural adoption of Google Workspace throughout the workplace.
My daughter uses it for college.
There you go.
Absolutely. And remember that Google Workspace, or understand that Google Workspace is also part of Google Cloud. So the connections that can be made out of Google Workspace, for example, connecting Google Sheets to BigQuery, an end user who's not familiar with writing SQL queries can use Google Sheets to access the large data sets that might be coming off of an industrial machine with that data stored in BigQuery. So think of Google Workspace as kind of a front-end piece to a lot of the other Google Cloud services that can be attached to each other to increase productivity, especially within the industry.
So what is the history now then with Google Workspace and the manufacturing sector? Because as I mentioned before, it's not something that I would think of with industrial manufacturing. So what's the history behind that?
Yeah, so this desire to have a connected workforce is a lot of the reason for this. Historically, when you are thinking of a manufacturing type of company, when you have seasonal workers and things like that, it's hard to provide them productivity-based tools. Okay. Right. It sometimes doesn't scale well. It's just hard from an operational standpoint to maintain all of that because of the nature of just people come in and they leave. With some of the flexibility aspects of Google Workspace, like the ability to have a scalable data platform that frankly is much easier to get into because you don't have to worry about aging hardware or anything like that. It's a browser-based. It's mobile first. It's that type of benefit that really is aligning to how companies, especially in manufacturing, want to move towards like a digital experience.
Gotcha. Do you have anything to add to that?
Historically, manufacturing services, and I say historically, like more than 10 or 15 years ago, a lot of it was on-premise based service. So a lot of the services that Google Workspace is, either replacing or becoming more than because we're all in the cloud. We're
Right.
completely cloud-based, and we don't have kind of the legacy hardware requirements that a manufacturing organization might have had on premise, more than a few years ago.
Okay.
So that allows for a lot of flexibility and security, frankly, to kind of give the Google security story that big hug around the data that is coming into the Google services.
Okay, so one of the things that we have on our notes is app sheets and how that's helping accelerate certain things, but we got to take a quick sponsor break, so we'll get into that more once we come back, so stay tuned.
Cool.
Hey everyone, welcome back. We are here with Google Cloud and just talking about Google Cloud with industrial manufacturing. So app sheets, can you guys explain what that is and how it's helping frontline workers?
Yeah, sure. I'll start. And Derrick can always correct me. I'm actually a customer engineering manager, so I'm rapidly losing my technology skills. No, Google App Sheet is Google Workspace and frankly Google Cloud's low-code, no-code application builder.
Okay.
And what really sets App Sheet apart is the ability to interact with data that you already have existing, right? So if you have a Google Sheet, if you have a SQL table, you can interact with that data from an application. But when you build the application, and the reason that it's really impactful for the frontline workers is that, first of all, you can rapidly build these with little to no experience, these types of applications, and they're automatically configured and set up for mobile devices and desktop devices. But what we're looking at is to be able to access and harness all of the power of the back-end data and present it to a frontline worker in a manner that they're already used to. They're already used to looking at their phones all day and working off of their phones. And frankly, as Derrick said earlier, the younger generation or people coming into your workspace, they're already using, they're using their phone to do all of their daily activities. And App Sheet is one way to really enable that.
Okay, anything to add?
Yeah, so I think a lot of where AppSheet comes into play is that when you think of a frontline worker, you're not really expecting them or even wanting them to have full access to all of the productivity suite, right? Sometimes it is detrimental to them from like a time and efficiency perspective to expect them to dig through however many documents live in your environment to create things and fill out information. AppSheet is nice because, as David mentioned, like it integrates into everything that's in Google Workspace, but you're kind of guiding them, right? So if I have like a specific form where if I'm running an inspection on something, I know the type of information that I need to see. If I needed to upload a picture, I can do that straight from the phone. I don't have to worry about being in front of a computer to create a document and upload the information that I need to. So it's really streamlining the process of getting information from the frontline workers as they do their job, whatever that might be.
And just to add on to that, even as a front end, it doesn't have to just talk to data. As you mentioned, you can send a picture out, but that can be read by like sending out to Google's Vertex AI. If you were doing like a use case of visual inspection, you can have your camera with the AppSheet application on, take a picture of whatever you're looking at, send it to Vertex AI throughout the system, and it'll give you a good or bad reading. And so you can fix the part, do whatever you need to with it, take a picture again, and then you get the thumbs up on that it's okay again.
Okay.
So you can, it's really that front end to very, very powerful back ends.
Okay. Now, there are other types of platforms out there that are helping industrial manufacturers collect a lot of data, especially when it comes to what's working with frontline workers and what's not. Are you Is Google Cloud able to integrate with some of those other platforms? So like digital instructions is one. There's a lot of companies that are trying to find out how do we document the processes and provide these digital instructions so that we can appropriately train our frontline workers and not have to take someone else off the line to do that training. Are you guys partnering with anyone, or can you integrate what you're doing with Google Cloud into some of those systems?
Yeah, so I think that's where a lot of where Gemini comes into play, right? It's
Okay.
that democratization of that information. So being able to take like a bunch of SOPs or just manuals for repairing a product and putting them in a single place. Traditionally, you're kind of expected to know where the answer is for a particular problem that you're having, find that document, go through that document, and then look for the answer to your problem.
Okay.
But using a lot of that generative AI technology within like Vertex AI or natively within Gemini for Google Workspace, being able to ask like a natural language question of like, how do I repair X?
Yeah.
And then Gemini's doing the heavy lifting of going through all of your documents and trying to find and source the answer for you is
Okay.
really what we're trying to get at, right? It's removing a lot of that upfront labor from a person just trying to get an answer to a question.
Okay. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, that was pretty good.
You
Nothing to add there.
So Google Workspace is connected productivity platform powered by machine learning to simplify communication, storage, and task tracking for agile teams. Are there any sort of like challenges or issues that you had to really overcome before helping to implement this type of solution?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah. One of the first things that comes up is just the educator. There's other generative AI services out there.
Right.
There's a lot of news about it, and frankly, a lot of disinformation as well. And so, educating our customers and people who are interested in exactly how our Gemini system and the other AI systems that we have behaves is really important. Especially, and I mentioned security already once. I'll say it again.
Yeah.
That's a huge piece of it. So people are really questioning. When they're using generative AI, they don't want to have their data can't leave their organization. So we're providing all of that control from a security standpoint, and the barriers and the barricades, and are frankly it's one of the first tenets that we have is to make sure that information is safe, but still usable and accessible to the Gemini systems that we have.
And I want to continue on this conversation around security when we get back from our short break from our sponsor. So stay tuned because we're going to dig a little deeper in the security portion of this conversation.
Everybody in the 313, put your manufacturing hands up and follow me, because we're going to season 3 of Road Tripping with Steve. This is awesome. I've never been in an automotive facility like this. Hello? Hi, this is Road Tripping with Steve. I need to leave and go let my head cool down. The Robo Drill is seriously one of my favorite machines.
Brand new program, call it whatever you want.
Steve's program.
All right.
Can you take it past 100%? Do it again.
So Derrick and David, we were talking about security and how Google Cloud kind of incorporates that. So there are some industries that have traditionally been hesitant to use Google Cloud for some of their things because it has been an open source sort of system for them. What are you changing or doing differently now to really ensure those types of industries that this is the platform for them now with frontline workers?
Yeah, so That's a great question. I think one of the first things that we should probably talk through is the nature of how data is processed and stored within Google Workspace as it pertains to like an enterprise. First and foremost, in an enterprise, your data is your data, right? You put your data in, you own your data is never used for ads or any other way like that in Google Workspace. I think that's one of the things that, from a common misconceptions perspective, one of the most important ones. People are generally afraid that if they go into Google, that their data is treated in the same way that a regular consumer would, right? But in Workspace, specifically for enterprises, that data is segmented off. Your data never leaves your organization. It stays private to your organization.
Okay.
Furthermore, when we think about things like regulatory compliance, Google Workspace meets and exceeds some of the most highly regulated standards that there are. And Google does quite a bit in terms of making sure that their product is, from a compliance perspective, meeting all of that.
Okay. Anything to add, David?
Yeah, I would say that we also, I mean, if you go on the compliance pages on the Google websites, it will show the federal, state, local, national, global standards that not only Google Workspace is following, but also on a per product basis with Google Cloud Platform as well. So it's something that, again, maybe the perception is somebody that has a Gmail account and a consumer is completely different terms, and frankly, the technical controls over the accounts and the data is an enterprise grade, and in some cases, in many cases, following along with the required standards that that the frontline workers need because their organization needs it as well.
So as things continue to evolve in industrial manufacturing, so there's a lot of like high-tech stuff going on with automation and machine learning and preventative maintenance and predictive maintenance and collection of all this data to really help leaders make more efficient decisions within their processes and manufacturing facilities. What are some of the things that we can look forward to from Google Cloud that's really going to help elevate manufacturers with all of those other things added to the pot?
Yeah, so the reduction of overhead required to like make a decision one way or another is really what we're trying to do, right? We're not removing the human from the decision. We're just giving them more information, better information, faster, so that they can make the decisions that they need to. So when we think of things like being able to understand how a standard operating procedure happens, being able to pull all that information in much more quickly, then also doing things like from a data and machine perspective, being able to take as much information from whatever machine you have out there in order to make better decisions about things that you should be doing from a predictive maintenance perspective, from like a product enhancement perspective. It's really just about empowering humans with data in a way that makes sense to them that we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, and the differentiators with Google Cloud compared to some of the other systems is just the scale of Google, right? So some of the services that he's talking about when you're running these queries or asking Gemini queries over large data sets, they just work, and they work quickly in the Google infrastructure. So part of what you're getting when you're using Gemini AI or even our scaled backends is just on a exponentially larger, more stable than, and I'm throwing out a lot of like big words without any numbers behind them, but just think of the Google structure that's powering all of these different services at global scale.
Well, and as a personal user of Google, I just feel like the user friendliness is up to par to everything that we're talking about as the industry continues to evolve. So like with robotics, there's always the conversation around drop and play things or drop and place coding systems so that you don't have to do all of that extra training on basic coding language. So any comments around that?
Yeah, I would say that Google hasn't, we're still a very person-first set of systems, right?
Yeah.
So we're not going to make something, even if in the back it's very complex and very leveraged and scaled, the end user on the front end is still going to have that Google experience. So we're not losing that, but we're just adding additional power to, like what Derrick said, where we're taking, synthesizing, like a very common use case would be to take an 800-page document, summarize it, pull the tables out of it. That's something that you might have to pay someone else to do if you didn't have those systems behind it. it, and just the scale that it happens, and then the tight integration back to Google Workspace. You can export that directly into into Sheets, into Slides, whatever you need to at that point. So it's really, but you
Right.
still have that Google experience on the front end.
Yeah. Anything to add to that, Derrick?
Yeah, I mean, I think fundamentally, regardless of the technology that you put forward, right, as good as it is, it's always going to be used by a person. And when we think about how products should be designed, that focus on the user is a really big component to just the general thought process behind how we should be designing these things.
Awesome. Well, Derrick and David, I really appreciate you two taking time out of your day to speak with us here today in the Creators Lounge at IMTS 2024. One of the most exciting things about this year's show is, we're focusing on technology, which before wasn't really a highlight of this show in past years. So it's really exciting to see what you guys are doing and how it's driving the future of industrial manufacturing. So thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you
us.
so much.
Awesome.
Great to be
Well,
here.
That's it for this episode at the Creators Lounge here at IMTS 2024. Stay tuned because we got a couple more left for you for the rest of the day. Bye, everyone.